Yesterday was Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is kind of the holiest day of the year for the Jews. It's a day of fasting. It's a day where Jews, both very religious Jews, but also pretty secular Jews, go to synagogue. It's one day where pretty much everybody goes to synagogue. In Israel, it's a day where there's just no cars in the streets. It's completely empty. Everybody walks to synagogue. I mean, some people drive, but then they park far away from the synagogue and then they walk. But there are very, very few cars driving in the streets. I remember my dad used to go to, he was a doctor, so he sometimes had to work on Yom Kippur. He would sometimes get stones thrown at him for driving on Yom Kippur. So Israel can get pretty nasty about this Yom Kippur stuff, in certain neighborhoods at least. Anyway, yesterday in Great Britain, at a Jewish congregation in Manchester, there are about 300,000 Jews in the United Kingdom. And this congregation in Manchester, somebody came in with a car, drove into a bunch of people, came out with a knife, started stabbing people around him, and then headed towards the synagogue and tried to get in. People on the other side of the door in the synagogue, closed the door, held him back, prevented him from breaking into the synagogue, where I'm sure he was. He wanted to inflict more damage and do more harm. As he's trying to break into the synagogue, and the police arrive, and these are police in England who have guns. Go figure. Anyway, the police arrive and they shoot him. They shoot him and they shoot at him. As a consequence of them shooting him, some of the bullets go through the door. And one person on the other side of the door is killed, another one is injured. So the total of this is a number of people are injured. 2 people were killed, one directly by the attacker, the other by the police, in trying to kill the attacker. So still by the attacker, but indirectly. This is, this is a major anti-Semitic attack in the UK. Of course, the protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters, the pro-Hamas protesters, more accurately, who are in the streets in England all the time, did not agree to not go into the streets yesterday. They went into the streets. Actually, the protests were bigger and in more cities than were planned, because these people were very excited by the fact that some Jews had been killed on Yom Kippur. Now, of course, everybody was very afraid to attribute motive to the killer, even though this is his name. Just so you realize his name. His name was Jihad al-Shami, right? But the Labour Party will not accuse Jihad al-Shami of an act of anti-Semitic terrorism, of jihadism, even though his name is Jihad. They won't attribute to that. We still don't know. We have to investigate. Who knows? Generally, the response from the left has been muted, non-existent. The response from many in the Islamic community in England has been going out to demonstrate against Israel. The response of many intellectuals on the left is like, look, this is Israel's fault. These Jews, whether they're Zionists or not, they're suffering because of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. This is all justified because it's just retribution for what Israel is doing. And this is of course, fascinating because nobody has a real response to this. And you're seeing a lot of people condemn this as anti-Semitic and killing Jews for being Jews. But almost saying, look, you don't know, they might not have been Zionists, they might not have been supporters of Israel. Wait a minute, let me get this straight. She's saying if they were supporters of Israel, would it have been okay to kill them? Yeah, I'll give you an example. And this is from The Spectator, which is a conservative, right-wing, pro-Israel publication by a guy named Nick Cohen, so I assume a Jew. Why won't the left call out anti-Semitism for what it is? And he writes, the assassin, a British citizen of Syrian heritage, showed his appreciation for this country by ramming his car into the grounds of the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in my home city of Manchester and stabbing any Jew he could find. He had never talked to them. He'd never discovered their views about Israel and Palestine. It was enough that they were Jews. This is such a cop-out. It's such a sellout. What if he had talked to them? What if it turned out that they support Israel, that they think Israel's in the right? Would then Nick Cohen say, "Oh, okay, well, maybe then it's okay, or then it's not anti-Semitism"? The issue of whether these particular Jews were pro-Israel, anti-Israel, is completely irrelevant. The issue of whether the killer knew whether they were pro-Israel or anti-Israel is completely irrelevant. I mean, what's relevant here is violence is not a means for dealing with disagreement in the West. Violence is not a means for dealing with disagreement in the West. You don't kill people you disagree with. He kept going. It was enough that they were Jews, and any Jew would do. So he killed one and left the other to be hit by a straight police bullet in the fight that followed. These are racist murders. And if they're not racist murderers, if they're ideologically motivated murders, just as the huge upsurge in abuse of Jews since Hamas massacre of October 2023 represents a huge upsurge in racial hatred. Now, all that is absolutely true. It is racial hatred. But that's not the relevant, and it's not even relevant to just label him an anti-Semite. It's way too easy. It's way too letting him off the hook too easy and letting off the whole entire Islamist world off too easy. Is he an anti-Semite like the Nazis? Is he an anti-Semite like, I don't know, the leftists in the streets? Is he as anti-Semite like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen? He's a particular type of anti-Semite. He's a particular type of anti-Semite. He's a jihadist. He's an Islamist. He's somebody who holds an ideology that says that the West should be destroyed. And by the way, Jews are an important part of that West. And then in destroying the West, destroying the Jews is a piece of that. It's how you get to where you want to go. It's not separate. It's not independent of his ideology of Islamism, his ideology of Sharia law, imposing Sharia law on Britain. And by calling him an anti-Semite, it's just not good enough. This person was motivated by an ideology that many Muslims in Britain hold, an ideology that, as a consequence of many Muslims in Britain holding, they are acting in one way or another against the very nature of Western civilization, acting in one way or another against the very nature of the state of Britain, and they have to be opposed. It is the ideology of Islamism that has to be opposed. This anti-Semitic spin-off is just one piece of it. Yes, right now, the Islamists are getting a lot of leverage from globalized intifada, from the river to the sea, from villain, making Israel into the villain. And that is because they're being aided and abetted by the left and by some on the right who despise Israel. So right now, it is in the interest of the Islamists to align themselves with the anti-Semites. But the threat is much broader than just their anti-Semitic views. The threat comes from their Islamist views. The threat comes from their support, in the past for ISIS and Al-Qaeda, in the present for Hamas and Hezbollah. These are not just a coalition of anti-Semites. What's really important here is the real threat to the West is not from anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is just, a early symptom of the disease. The real threat here is Islamism. The real threat here is people who believe the Western civilization must be destroyed and replaced by an Islamic caliphate, and that Sharia law must be imposed on the West. That is the threat. They happen to be disguised as anti-Semites right now. And this has been the threat for, since 9/11, certainly. I've been saying the threat to Europe, you can find videos of me saying this in 2002 on panels with Daniel Pipes. The threat in Europe is Islamism. It's only gotten worse. It's only gotten worse because of appeasement. Because of appeasement and compromise, and indeed opening up the doors to more Islamists. Come on over. The embrace of Islamism. It's only gotten worse because nobody would publish the Danish cartoons. It's only gotten worse because they've taken off all the paintings of Muhammad from museums in Europe. It's only gotten worse because nobody's willing to say the enemy is Islamism. But it has to be said, and unless you say that, no other solution is viable. There is no solution unless you're willing to identify the ideology that is the enemy. Islamism, that is the ideology. No, doesn't Trump say that? Yes. And at the same time, he provides a security guarantee as strong as NATO's, Article 5, to the one regime in the Middle East, funding Islamism, on the Sunni side at least, more than any other regime, and that's Qatar. So Trump is useless when it comes to this. He doesn't say it, and he supports the worst elements in it. Christianity is an enemy, but Christianity is a separate enemy than what we're talking about right now. Christianity is positioned to us as the solution to this problem, and that it is clearly not. Oh, and you really are pathetic sometimes, really pathetic. Anne says he's trying to flip them. That's so cringe. It is so Trump mindlessness syndrome. It is so cringe. And I'm not kidding now. I've literally got, cold flashes because, How can anybody be that mindless? Right? Trump did it, so it must be good. So let's rationalize it. All right, but I'm not surprised. I mean, it's and Scott, it's all the same thing. It's Islamist. And, you know, you can talk about solutions to the Islamic problem in Europe, and there are all kinds of solutions. But you cannot solve anything without first identifying the cause of the problem. You can't solve anything without first saying they are the problem. Islamism is the problem. Jihadism is the problem. And we will not tolerate it. It is an enemy, and we will fight it. And until the West gets serious about fighting Islamism, jihadism, nothing will happen. I don't care if it's reform. I don't care if it's the conservatives. I don't care if it's the left. I don't care who it is. If they don't name it, they can't fight it. By the way, I said that right after 9/11. You cannot defeat an enemy you are afraid to name. You cannot defeat an enemy that you are afraid to name. So, yeah. In Great Britain, the right is saying it's anti-Semitism. The left is saying, oh, we don't know. He's just a confused a person. It's just one individual. And I'm saying it's Islamism. And until you recognize it's Islamism, left and right, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to get better. By the way, this was a guy that it turns out was accused of rape, was out on bail, and his family, just to be clear, his family completely repudiated what he's done. His family says we fully distance ourselves from this attack and express our deep shock and sorrow over what has happened. That's more than the rest of the Muslim community has done. Our hearts and thoughts are with the victim and his families, and we pray that for their strength and comfort. So, you know, it's not clear that the family is an Islamist family, but he was. He was an Islamist. Why they called him jihad, why anybody would call their son jihad is beyond me, but there you go. Yep. But obviously, a sad day in the UK. It looks like both Manchester United and Manchester City are going to hold a minute's silence at the beginning of their football game. I guess when did they play? On Sunday. In commemoration of the victims. Remember, this happened in Manchester. So yeah, I mean, at some point, we'll talk more about this in a future show. At some point, Europe has to come to terms with who it is that is responsible for the violence in the streets. It's not random. It's not just Muslims. It's not just third world culture. It's none of those things. It's a particular ideology. It's a particular set of beliefs. And that set of beliefs and that ideology really, that needs to be shut down. And for that, you need to declare it the enemy. And by the way, just for the record, I've been saying that for 24 years. You can find video of me saying it basically 24 years ago. So I haven't said it, maybe as often recently, just because I said it so often in the first 10 years that I got sick of saying it. But it's you have to deal with root causes, and you have to be willing to identify root causes. And you have to have the courage to stand up to the villains and to recognize that it's ideology, it's religion. Yeah, it's Islam. It's related to Islam. It's not separate from Islam. Islam is not a religion of peace, as George Bush would have us believe. It's religion. Religion is an enemy. Oop, what happened here? Sorry, something happened here. Let me just fix this. Did you guys lose connection for a second? I don't know why the chat disappeared from you for a while. Let's see. Right. Yes, I wrote a book on the topic. Yes, I did. But I can't remember what we talk about there about Europe, but I've spoken many, many times about the situation in Europe and what needs to be done. Again, you can find video.